From the BC Hall of SBC Summit Americas 2025, this is a new episode of iGaming Daily. Welcome everyone, I'm Fernando Not, Senior Business Journalist for SBC Noticias, and today I have the pleasure to be with Motti Colman, VP Revenue at Optimove. Optimove, the #1 CRM marketing solution for the iGaming market, like we say on every episode. So Motti, welcome, it's a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you, lovely to be here.
So how are you finding the event so far?
Good. It's getting busier and busier as the day goes on. I was at the Leaders Summit yesterday, which was also great. Really good to meet different people, new people. I spoke there, which was fun. Nice to have got it out the way, and now I can just focus on the rest of the conference.
Yeah, like I say, it's great to meet with people face to face, right? To make business face to face, learn their problems, learn their concerns.
Absolutely.
So yeah, why don't we just jump straight to it and let's discuss the concerns of the iGaming operators, the sports betting operators.
Let's do it.
What do you think are their main challenges, especially when considering the scaling of their operations?
Yeah, I think when you talk about scaling in iGaming and sports betting businesses today, I think there's so much competition and it's so difficult to do it really. Regulation is very, very heavy. There's a very, very thin path that businesses can walk, and margins are lower. But there's also the opportunity of what happens if you do scale, which is that you can create an amazing business. So the first thing is to be able to walk that very narrow path between what you're allowed to do and what you can do and what's smart to do and to still be innovative. I was speaking to a business owner this morning, actually, who he's about to launch. And he says he treats every single day like it's the last day of the company. Right? That's it. Which is fine, and I understand that. And you've got to do that when you're a startup. But also at some point, you've got to make a couple of very big bets on the long-term strategic moves that the business wants to take. So I think balancing those two things against each other is probably the hardest thing that those businesses are going through today.
So treating the company as the last day doesn't mean you spend all the money the company has.
No, the opposite, I think.
It's the opposite. Just get loans and everything.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't mean that. Okay, so how has also the competitive gaming landscape evolved so far? And how does that impact the smaller operators, the new operators? How does the evolution of the competitive landscape impact them?
Well, it makes it harder. I mean, the costs will go up, cost of acquisition will go up. The more competition there is, there's more people bidding on the keywords. It's harder to get SEO traffic. It's harder to win positions in affiliate marketing. And then, of course, to retain the customers as well is harder because the switching costs are unbelievably low for a customer. They can move from one brand to the next. So, with increased competition, being able to own the loyalty of an individual customer is an incredibly hard thing to do. And yeah, you're swimming usually in a sea with very big sharks. And it's hard. It's hard out there for sure.
Well, speaking of big sharks, right now we have everyone talking about Brazil. Mm-hmm. Let's discuss with SBC Noticias. So I'm particularly interested in Brazil. So what advice would you give the operators looking to enter Brazil, considering there are so many big sharks, so many companies that are already settled there?
So I actually just recently did an analysis on the market post-regulation, January, February, March, and looked at the data for how it was performing in many different ways, in conversions, in reactivations, in deposit sizes, all that kind of stuff. And actually, one of the really interesting things I noticed pre and post regulation was the conversion rate between registration and first deposit. And I think kind of what's happened is that everybody's had to re-establish their registration process and how they get the customer to make that first deposit. And a lot of those big businesses that we're talking about existed in the pre-regulated phase, and now they exist obviously today as well. And they've had to change and re-engineer a lot about the way that they do their business across the board to meet demands of what the regulation looks like today. I think businesses that are probably joining the regulated market today in Brazil have an opportunity to kind of see what's already happening there and to build their business specifically in and around what the regulation requires of them to do today. And so things like the welcome journey, the registration journey, how to get a customer through that registration as quickly as possible, how to include the KYC involved in that registration process. I think they have an opportunity to kind of build the business today to be ready for the registration, whereas these other big companies, whilst they have that massive scale, they actually had to re-engineer their whole business to make it right, and you could see it immediately, the sort of the drop off in registration to first deposit as a conversion rate was enormous from sort of October, November, December last year to January, February of this year. So I think there's opportunities as well.
And from a marketing perspective, there's of course big budgets going on in Brazil. There's a lot of companies making big expenses on marketing. So how do the smaller companies navigate that area?
Yeah, well, listen, they're never going to be able to win in that regard. So my view is always don't fight a battle that you're always going to lose. You know, if you've got big companies that are the shirt sponsors on the biggest football clubs, you know, that's a battle you've already lost. I think one of the trends I've seen in Brazil a lot, which is quite interesting, is around gamification. So gamification as a concept, there's many different ways that people talk about it, but effectively you can build a loyalty scheme inside the product that drives more activity for the customer itself. And I think those are the sort of smart ways that you've got to be thinking about it. It's not a race to the bottom in terms of the size of deposit offers that you're giving, and it's not large scale branding that you're doing on football shirt sponsors, but it's smart ways of taking an existing set of customers that you've got and actually looking after them in a way that drives them to want to come back and to stay with you and to not just take up that, you know, welcome offer for the next brand. So I think the smaller businesses need to fight the battles that they can win in ways that they can win it, rather than trying to compete against the big companies, and they'll get swallowed up.
Right. And do you think like technology and its evolution has leveled the field a little bit so they can finally fight some battles? Because if we go back, I don't know, like 20, 25 years, maybe there was not so many things to do for these smaller operators, for these smaller companies versus the bigger ones. So has technology and its evolution leveled the field? Is it like, has it democratized the landscape?
Yeah, I think it's the exact right way of putting it is democratizing data and using AI as a path to be able to get there. Because what a startup has over an enterprise business is the ability to be agile, nimble, to make things happen quickly, right? So any kind of idea that exists in the business, if they can get that idea to an execution in a matter of seconds, minutes, whatever it would be, then that gives them an edge that maybe a bigger company can't do when you have so many internal processes and multiple teams. And you kind of have this idea, I mean, we talk about it in CRM a lot, of this kind of conveyor belt where different people in different teams need to pass a project onto multiple people. The way that technology, that we've built our technology is to kind of knock that conveyor belt out of the way. So we talk a lot about this idea of a positionless marketer. So that's, again, the perfect thing. You can be much more agile, much more quick. An individual person has the capacity or the capabilities with the right technology to be able to do multiple parts of, you know, getting a campaign out the door. In our example would be, you know, you've got an idea of a campaign you want to run, and the same CRM manager can have the idea, can pull the list of customers, can build the templates, can design the campaign that they want, can test it across multiple different ideas. So yeah, it's the technology that allows that actually to happen. And if you're a small business, being able to be nimble, being able to use AI to drive the various different types of content via a prompt, rather than taking it out to some kind of graphic design team or something, that massively reduces the time to be able to get it out the door.
And you said AI multiple times. So do you think it's possible to work without AI these days?
Yes, you can work without it if you want, but I would...
Would you advise to work?
No, I wouldn't advise to do. I mean, look, even in our business on its own, and one of the pillars of our company at the moment is to see how we can utilize AI internally in our company. Obviously, there's a lot of AI elements inside the product that we deliver for our clients, but I just think it's such a fascinating opportunity at the moment to be much more efficient, and I think that's the sort of the realm that we need to be looking at is efficiency. And again, when it comes to big businesses in an industry that, you know, let's be real, there's an opportunity to make a lot of money. Very often the big companies don't become more efficient because they're making a lot of money, and why change what you're doing when it's already working? So with the smaller businesses that are coming to try and attack, I would think being nimble, being efficient, and using AI as a way to get there, I think is the thing that they should be doing right now.
Absolutely. So I want now you to take this stage, SBC Summit Americas, and tell our audience whatever you like.
Oh, sure. Well, there's plenty of things there that I'd like to talk about. In regards to Optimove, I mean, one of the things that we've been looking at a lot recently is all around how we actually look after the smaller operators, the emerging ones, the startups, the businesses that are going to be very, very high growth. And it's kind of, it's coming back to our roots, because we were a very small startup when I joined Optimove 10, 11 years ago. I think I was maybe one of 30 people, maybe 35 people in the company. It's about 530 today. It's two very different businesses. And at the time, we only used to work with small startup operators because they were the only ones that would trust us. And today, we're very blessed to be working with the likes of Bet365 and Betano and BetMGM and the rest of the Entain business and many, many other massive organizations. And actually what we're doing again today, so we kind of re-engineered the company so that we're able to manage all of those enterprise businesses, which require very specific processes and white glove treatment and the ability to deal with multiple teams. It's not the same as what a small business requires from a partner, from a technology vendor. And so we're re-establishing what that actually looks like. And when I think about kind of the deals that we've lost at the small end of the market, it was never because our platform wasn't good enough. It was actually on the contrary. It was deemed to be too sophisticated, too upmarket, right? So what we've started to do over the last few years is to reimagine the product and take it off in two different directions, where we've kind of got a product that's more relevant for an operator. We've got a program called Optimove Ignite Plus, which has very favorable commercials and financial pointers in there. And more than that, it gives the startup operators access to the more sophisticated part of Optimove. So we have a very big strategic services team that historically work with our bigger clients and do a lot of the predictive modeling and build out a lot of the CRM strategy for them. That's invaluable information for any business, but usually the startup operators didn't get access to it. Part of the Ignite Plus program is to open the door and to provide some of that out the box, benchmarking analysis, VIP modeling, welcome journeys, whatever it might be, but to an operator that previously wouldn't have been able to get access to it. So we've re-looked at the way that the product is dealt with. We've re-looked at the way that they can gain access. We've looked at the way that the commercials are kind of set up. We've also re-engineered all of the account management team and the customer success teams so that they have a very specific focus either on enterprise companies or maybe the emerging businesses as well. So it's an exciting time. And you see, that's the thing with a startup operator. And I go back to one of the first things I said. Yes, you can deal with the company as if today's your last day and this is it. We don't have much more money and we just got to make the right decision for today. And if you do that, you then forget that there's also a strategic big picture. So often what companies would have said to us in the past is, we'd love to work with Optimove, but we'll do that as a phase 2. We'll take something more simple today and hopefully in 6 months and a year or whatever it would be. And the reality is that second period of time often never comes and you kind of get used to what it is that you're doing. So my view is, can you sort of make that big bet, which is, in our example, Optimove would be the strategic bet that you take on an ongoing basis, but can you get in there at an entry-level point that's more aligned with where your business is today?
Okay, Motti, you have given our listeners a lot to think about, a lot to process, but thank you very much for being on iGaming Daily, and to our listeners out there, we'll meet you in the next one.